Marcus Hale strutted into Argentum Private Bank the way most people walked onto a stage, chin raised, shoulders back, every step echoing with the confidence of a man who believed the world bent in his direction. The marble floors reflected the shine of his Italian loafers, and the security guard greeted him with the stiff politeness reserved for wealthy clients who complained often. Marcus liked that. He liked being recognized. As he waited for his account manager, he noticed an elderly woman standing a few feet away from the VIP counter. She wore a faded lavender sweater with a loose thread dangling from the sleeve and sensible shoes that whispered against the floor. A worn canvas bag hung from her shoulder, the kind you'd find at a farmer's market, not a bank that required appointments and minimum balances that could buy a house. She approached the kiosk hesitantly, as though unsure whether she belonged in such a polished place. "I just want to see my balance," she murmured to the teller, her voice gentle but clear. Marcus almost laughed right away, but he held it back until he stepped closer. "You know," he said lightly, "this isn't the regular branch. People usually don't, check balances here." He meant it as a joke, but the implication hovered in the air. "You don't look like you belong here." The woman didn't flinch. She simply looked at him with a small, patient smile, the kind an elder might give a child who hadn't yet learned manners. "I know exactly where I am," she replied. Her calmness disarmed him for a moment. Then the teller invited her forward, and Marcus watched with casual amusement, certain she would be turned away or redirected to the public lobby. But instead, she stepped confidently to the counter, while Marcus waited to be entertained. He had no idea the laugh waiting in his throat would soon die there. The teller, a young man with perfect posture and a practiced corporate smile, took the elderly woman's card with a courteous nod. Marcus leaned one elbow on the counter, fully expecting the display to show a modest pension account, maybe a few thousand, if she was lucky. He watched the scene with the casual amusement of someone waiting for a predictable ending. The teller inserted the card. The screen blinked. Loading. Marcus smirked. Probably the system is confused. Her balance is too small to bother displaying, he thought. Then the teller's expression cracked. A tiny gasp escaped him, barely audible, but unmistakable. His eyes widened first. His breath paused mid-chest. His fingers, which had been tapping calmly moments before, froze as if petrified. Marcus's smirk wavered. The teller swallowed, glanced at the woman, then at Marcus, then back at the glowing numbers. "Ma'am," he began, voice trembling slightly, "could you confirm your PIN one more time?" "Just standard procedure." But Marcus realized it wasn't standard at all. The teller was stalling, trying to process what he was seeing. The woman calmly entered her PIN, unfazed. The screen refreshed. Marcus's heart gave a strange, unexpected jolt. The number was massive. Not 6 digits, not 7, 8, and not just barely 8, comfortably 8, with commas that marched across the screen like tiny soldiers announcing her fortune. Is that correct?" Marcus whispered before he could stop himself. The woman squinted at the display, then nodded politely, as though approving a grocery receipt. "Yes, good. I just needed to make sure everything is still there. No shock, no pride, no drama." Meanwhile, Marcus felt the ground shift beneath him, his assumptions collapsing like cardboard in the rain. The teller printed her balance slip with reverent care, as though handling something sacred. And Marcus Hale, the man who thought he'd seen everything money could buy, realized he'd just seen something money couldn't. Quiet, unshakable wealth. Marcus stood frozen as the elderly woman tucked the balance slip neatly into her canvas bag. The teller still looked stunned, blinking rapidly like someone trying to wake up from a dream. But the woman herself, perfectly calm, peaceful, even, as if 8 figures were something she checked between buying vegetables and feeding her cat. Unable to hold back his curiosity, or his bruised pride, Marcus stepped toward her. "Ma'am, if you don't mind me asking," he began, his voice softer than he intended. "How did you come to have—" He gestured vaguely, as though the number itself was too heavy to mention aloud. She looked up at him with kind, weathered eyes. "All of that," she finished for him. "It's simple, really. I just saved." "Saved," Marcus echoed. To him, the word sounded old-fashioned, almost quaint. She nodded. "I was a school librarian for 52 years. The salary wasn't much, but it was steady. And I put a small piece of every paycheck into the same investment account. Never took it out, no matter what happened. But that alone wouldn't. Marcus stopped, unsure how to phrase it without sounding rude. She chuckled, not offended in the least. No, it wouldn't. The company I invested in grew, split its shares, expanded again, and compound interest did the rest. Slow at first, then suddenly all at once. Marcus blinked, struggling to imagine dedicating half a century to anything, especially something without glamour or applause. You never touched it, he asked. Never needed to, she said with a gentle shrug. I lived within my means. My joy wasn't in things, it was in people, books, and quiet days. She paused, then added, money grows quietly, dear. Most people just grow louder while waiting for it. Marcus had never felt more seen, or more exposed. Her words slipped under his skin, rearranging something he hadn't known was loose. The richest person in the room wasn't the one flaunting what he had, but the one who didn't need to. Marcus stepped out of Argentum Private Bank into the cool afternoon air, but the usual rush of city noise didn't reach him. His thoughts were still trapped inside that marble hall, looping around the same image, the worn sweater woman nodding calmly at an 8-figure balance as if it were nothing more than a weather report. He walked slowly, uncharacteristically unsure of his footing. People streamed past him, businessmen barking into phones, tourists snapping photos, delivery riders weaving between cars, but for the first time in years, Marcus didn't feel like he belonged in the rush. He felt still. Her words echoed in him. Money grows quiet. Most people just grow louder. He thought about his own life. The penthouse he rarely slept in, the luxury car he drove more for attention than convenience, the restaurant reservations he bragged about but barely enjoyed. He remembered every moment he'd tried to prove he was someone, loudly, forcefully, publicly. And yet, the richest person he'd met that day had stood in line like everyone else, worried about nothing but confirming her balance and getting home in time, presumably, to feed her cat. Marcus stopped at a crosswalk, staring at his reflection in a glass storefront. The designer jacket, the expensive watch, the meticulously styled hair, all markers of success he'd built his identity around. But now they felt like props. Costumes. Not armor, but decoration. For the first time, he wondered if he had been chasing wealth, or merely the appearance of it. He thought of the librarian carefully saving through storms and recessions, never seeking applause. She had built her fortune quietly, patiently, while he had chased his loudly, desperately. And yet she had something he didn't. Peace. As the light turned green, Marcus inhaled deeply, letting the city's pulse blend into his own. Something inside him shifted. Small, but real. Maybe success wasn't about being seen. Maybe it was about being steady. He didn't know it yet, but that day would mark the beginning of a different life for Marcus Hale. One where he would spend far less time trying to impress the world, and far more time trying to understand himself.